Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. Today I got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because I'm playing Wolfenstein 3D on the Super Nintendo, but I am not playing the release version of the game. I'm playing a brand new work in progress build that includes both the original game as well as a completely remade Redux version, incorporating a lot of DOS and Jaguar elements into it, including some new extra missions and levels and even campaigns. To say this thing is basically an entire rebuild of Wolfenstein 3D on the Super Nintendo would be an understatement. This takes everything you know, love, and remember about the game on SNES and expands upon it in every single direction, so much so that it kind of feels like a brand new product for 2025. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. Now obviously the PC version of the game is still going to be the de facto best way to play something like Wolfenstein 3D, but the Super Nintendo port was always fun, and honestly, outside of the resolution here on SNES, this game absolutely feels like now the next best way to play this title. There is legit so much new content in this, so much to discover that you're probably going to feel like you're playing Wolfenstein 3D for the first time again. And the best part is with that MSU1 soundtrack, you're of course going to get some brand new music to go along for the ride. But this thing has an entirely new campaign inside of it. It has new secret levels and a ton of other Easter eggs on top of what would already be the release version of Wolfenstein 3D that you played back in the SNES in the 90s. And that Redux version that I'm playing right now basically just becomes a greatest hits version of all of the different aspects of the different Wolfenstein 3D releases across the board, from DOS, Jaguar, as well as the Super Nintendo. And Wolfenstein, I understand. I've said it both ways, and I always have people say it the other direction. So it's one of those things. You got both. Now you can't yell at me in the comments. But honestly, this game was just so important and so groundbreaking back in the day. And if you did not have a PC that could run it at home, something like the Super Nintendo port was probably the way most people played it. Because even if the entire Jaguar port was definitely more impressive on paper, how many people did you know have a Jaguar back in the day versus how many people had a Super Nintendo under their television? Obviously, it was probably like 1,000 to 1 as far as the sales ratio is concerned. And everything I'm seeing, everything I'm experiencing here is just absolutely incredible. And again, this is not the way that I remember the first mission from the first actual episode of Wolfenstein 3D unfolding. You do get some changes in here. Some of them are going to be slightly subtle. They're going to be a blink and you'll miss it moment where you're thinking to yourself, that's not how I remember it, but maybe I don't remember correctly. Other aspects are going to be completely just thinking to yourself, where did that come from? I absolutely love to see it. And that is the fun part about mods like this, just taking a game and fully expanding upon it, just like we've seen Doom on Super Nintendo from limited run games getting completely reworked, something like Wolfenstein 3D reworked on the SNES. Again, the exact same caliber of talent here, except this is going to be a free release. Now before you ask me when it's going to be out, the developers told me it's like 99.98% done. There's just a couple bug fixes left because they want to release the most impressive product they can, so it will be coming air quotes soon. And as soon as that happens, I'll definitely send out a tweet, maybe post something on Patreon telling you guys where to find it, because this was sent into me from the developer just to take a look at as a work in progress build. But that in and of itself is just why I love retro gaming so much. Somebody out there loves Wolfenstein enough to go in and basically remake the entirety of the damn thing with all of these new bonus features. There might even be some Easter eggs in here that you were not expecting, and I'm not going to spoil it because I'm just kind of showing you around the edges of all of the new content. But trust me, some of the hidden things you're going to find in this, they're fun, they're hilarious, they're going to make you think that there's even more stuff hiding in plain sight. And you're going to be able to find that all too, because not only do you have a password system, but you have a save slot system as well now. In both the original campaign and the Redux campaign, you're going to have quick save slots 1 through 3, so you can basically save your game and come back to it outside of the password system. But basically every single cheat and every single password from the original Wolfenstein 3D is going to work within the Redux version or the actual original version as well. And there's going to be some new codes here for new things that you'll have to discover when the game actually comes out. But it's soundtrack sample time, because the MSU1 audio here 100% perfectly complements the visuals and overall gameplay. So 45 seconds, I'll be right back to talk more about the new additions and why they matter so much. But enjoy! I think the best part about the MSU1 soundtrack is it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel as far as what Wolfenstein 3D sounds like. It isn't going for a hard rock soundtrack, it's basically just taking the vibe and the tone of what would be in the original game and just making it that much more audibly impressive as far as the overall audio quality and instrumentation is concerned. And now just kind of playing around in some of the secret areas here as well. There's going to be an entire new mission in this game, and maybe if you look the right places, you might even be able to find the Spirit of Destiny. When I say that this basically is everything Wolfenstein 3D you could possibly imagine on the Super Nintendo, I absolutely mean it. And again, there's so many things I experienced that I'm just taking the footage out of the video because I want you to discover it on your own, to get that sensation of just finding something new in a game that maybe you played a dozen times before. Because I totally get Wolfenstein 3D at this point in time is antiquated. There's been so many amazing 2D first-person shooters after it that really have a lot more technological advantage when it comes to their engines. But this game is just such a seminal classic, and having a new version of it with new improvements just 100% does it for me. And that is the reality of the thing. There are enhancements to the engine in the game borrowed from different titles on the Super Nintendo that use the same engine and borrowed from other consoles as well. So it really is not just a greatest hits of content, but it's also a greatest hits of under the hood technological achievements in this engine, because in just a bit you're going to see some outdoor areas as well with some skyboxes, not just the gray and the brown that you see here for the floor and the ceiling. Because that is the thing, when it made this game they really didn't have any ability to have those floor and ceiling textures. It was just one solid color, and even though it definitely does work and make it look like it is in 3D, it's one of those things, the minute you move to Doom and you get those floors and the ceilings, you just have that better sense of immersion. Not to say that this wasn't immersive back in the day, but I totally get now with that sea of drab brown and gray. It's just one of those things that if you can see improvements, it 100% is worth checking out. But I will say there is something kind of endearing about the lack of the textures on the floor and the ceiling and just how pixelated this game is. Because trust me, in 2025 it doesn't look all that special, but back when these games released, even on Super Nintendo, you were just blown away that this is something you could play on a console. And now with this entire quasi remake with all these MSU1 enhancements, it kind of actually lives up to the memory you probably have of playing Wolfenstein 3D on the Super Nintendo back in the day. But let's move on to one of the outdoor areas. Here's something in addition to the actual build of the game, and definitely a technological showcase of what can be done with the sky and the floor textures, because once we actually move inside in just a moment, you're going to see them swap out quickly. So it's going to seem like you're transitioning from an outdoor area in Wolfenstein into an indoor area on the Super Nintendo. And I get it, it's not that impressive in 2025 if you had modern hardware, but in 2025 getting that to work on the Super Nintendo and getting it to work this well, definitely an achievement for sure. And that's why this thing is basically 99.99% done, but the developers are just kind of trying to button up those last few bugs to give you the most seamless experience. But you'll see here, suddenly we're indoors versus outdoors. But here comes soundtrack sample 2 time. That MSU1 audio just hits, and I'll be right back with a little bit more Wolfenstein to convince you that one more playthrough of the game is definitely worth it.
Stop!
But I love that new MSU1 audio, and those bass strings just sound so good coming out of those enhancements. And that's not to say that the music in the original Super Nintendo version of the game was bad. It definitely was good, but this sounds closer to the PC and how you remember it. And again, I know someone's going to leave that comment down below and say, but why did anyone want to spend their time on this? We didn't need it. Well, honestly, we don't need video games whatsoever. We can get through life perfectly fine without ever having a video game to play. We just find something else to do. People make these things because it's a love letter to something they remember, and I will always advocate and support that on the channel with videos basically just saying, if it's not for you, that's totally cool, but there's a reason for everything to exist, and the only reason that needs to be out there is because somebody felt like doing it to make themselves happy and hopefully make you happy along the road as well. But when this is out, like I said, I will send a tweet out. Maybe I'll put up a public post on my YouTube community so you know where to find it, because it is 10 out of 10 awesome. It's so impressive how much it adds. It really is one of my favorite ROM hacks of 2025. But we're done. I'm going to keep shooting the bad guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.